Hello, friend and colleague. It's Nikki from Full Voice Music. On our podcast, I have Linda Fletcher. Linda is going to be talking about the Oakville Vocal Arts Festival. This is a non-competitive singing festival that is creating amazing opportunities for singers of all ages, creating safer spaces for students to find the joy of singing right here on the Full Voice Podcast. Welcome to the Full Voice Podcast, my friend, my colleague, composer, voice teacher, accompanist, previous podcast guest, Linda Fletcher. How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you, Nikki? Great to see you.
It's always good to see you, and we do check in with Linda quite a bit because she's part of the Full Voice team. Her works are part of our library, and of course, Linda is a really good reference and resource for us. So we often will call or talk to Linda about questions that we might have, and of course, we also like to share our repertoire with Linda because she's still teaching and has so many wonderful students. And Linda's students have also performed some of the demos for us for some of our songs, which is always delightful. So I'm so excited that you are here. And today we're talking about voice competitions. But specifically, we're going to be talking about your Vocal Arts Festival, which is a non-competitive festival. And it's a highly successful I was going to say competition. It's a highly successful, it's such a habit, right? It's a highly successful event where singers get a beautiful opportunity to sing in a venue, work with their accompanists, get feedback from adjudicators. I'm really excited about that. But let's kind of start things off. I have some pre-questions for you. So first of all,
Okay.
for how many years you've been putting your students into examinations and festivals for a lot of years? When did you start doing that? How long have you been doing that for?
Well, it would probably be 50 years since I
Oh
started
my,
teaching piano. Um, I'm 71 now, so it's been a long time, I guess.
wow. I love
So,
that. I love that.
well, I started teaching when I was really young.
Hmm.
I started teaching piano when I was really young because my piano teacher had made me do it, actually. Truth be told.
Sure.
Um, but when you're going to university and everything, it's really good to come home on Saturdays and just teach piano students all day and get some money to buy your books and things like that.
Absolutely.
And but I'm as far as exams, I probably did put some of those piano students in exams. Then I was teaching school music as well, and I had 4 children. I didn't. I mean, once I had 4 children, I stopped teaching school music. And I just started teaching at home and everything. And then I was doing the examinations and things like that with all the students. I didn't enter festivals from the beginning. I actually didn't grow up entering music festivals myself. Even though I did do a lot of music, that's all I did. But we did not. My teacher did not push any music festivals, and it wasn't. I think the first time I sang at a music festival was when I was already teaching school, and the superintendent decided that I should enter it just for fun, since the choirs were entering.
Sure.
Mhm. So that was a bit. That was, and then after that, when I started teaching privately instead of in the school system, I still didn't put students in music festivals. However, my high school music teacher from Peel, the Peel area, for the Peel Music Festival, he sort of talked me into putting a couple of kids in because I'd never done. So I did do that just to keep him happy, because he'd been a big supporter. He was the only one, in my high school that would say, of all the, counselors and teachers, that say, yes, you should go into music. So he was a big supporter. So but the kids' exams, they used to all do exams. Now it's a choice. Some of them choose to do it because they want that path, they want that accreditation, or
Sure.
maybe I could say the parents want that.
Sure.
Some parents don't want exams at all,
Yep.
which is just fine.
Hmm.
Some parents will want music festivals, want. Some parents love competition. And as it says, parents that love the competition, not the children, it seems.
Yes. Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
It's the parents, and sometimes the teacher, "Ooh, let's see if I can get, ooh, this kid's good. Let's put her in. I'll get a feather in my cap," right? But they don't realize maybe the stress that that kid's under. Um, so as I did have at one point a studio where almost all the students would enter the festivals. But now I think most of them, well, I think all of them entered the non-competitive festival.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
then when we have, then we do the Hamilton Festival in the spring for those who, but it's also a very friendly festival.
Yeah.
We do that one in the springtime, and for those that really do like the competition, and some of them like the balance of, they learn differently at the non-competitive festival than they would learn from the competitive festival.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's where you and I met actually was at the Burlington Festival. So I had festival experience when I was taking lessons as a young singer, and I enjoyed it. I had a teacher that encouraged it, and I have to say my dad also encouraged it. But I enjoyed the festivals as a young singer. So like from the ages of like 10 to 12, I think I did them and enjoyed them. Um, and it certainly gave a focus to my lessons because, you had your test pieces or you had your class pieces that you had to learn, and you were learning new music too, right? So I was learning songs that I probably wouldn't have studied had I not had to, meet the requirements of the class. So in that way, it was a really great experience. And then, of course, when our local city had the festival, I thought this is a great opportunity. And I think that's where we met because I remember you were a phenomenal accompanist. So I remember having lunch with you and Joan, and you were so kind to be able to accompany some of my students. And I think for the most part, you know, um, I think it was a positive experience. However, it was for me back then, it was a lot of extra work because I did a lot of extra rehearsals for my students. I did a lot of extra trying to get everybody ready. And in my early days of teaching, that was fine. But as I, got married, became a mom, had a life, then all of a sudden those extra rehearsals and everything just didn't really to try
Hmm.
and get people ready for these opportunities became really challenging. Um, but there was always that, and this is I'm just respectfully shouting out all the adjudicators who might be listening. There's always that initial worry and concern as a voice teacher about what the adjudicator is going to be like. What are they going to be focusing on? What are they going to be listening? And then for me, I always used to call it like damage control. So
Right.
is this an adjudicator where I'm going to have to sit down with my family and my kids afterwards and try to explain what happened and justify or smooth things out? So did you ever have those experiences with putting kids into the festivals, the competitions?
Well, I did. I mean, I would have them bring their adjudications to their lesson, and we would go through it all. And sometimes I would explain because they couldn't. And funny enough, when it went through that period in the school system where kids couldn't weren't learning cursive,
Oh,
so
yes. You couldn't
so
read that adjudication
they couldn't
comments.
read their adjudications. They couldn't read their exam comments. They couldn't read their adjudications,
Right.
right? So how silly was that non-cursive business anyway? Uh, I actually, on another note, I sent all the parents at that point when I realized they couldn't read it. I sent all the parents all these worksheets that I found online on how to teach your child at home to be a cursive writer. And I encouraged all parents to go to the school board to
Right.
complain about it,
Right.
saying, I want to be able to sign my passport. But yes, you have to go through it and talk to them about, well, perhaps this was happening and they saw something different in this person than they did in you. And I mean, you can say, oh yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you participated, but sometimes they still feel bad, especially if there's four in the class. If there's four people in the class, they pick first, second, third, and you're, out
Yeah,
there,
that was always
don't have
hard.
anything.
Yeah.
That I mean, that is difficult. It's equally difficult if three of you were really good and one was not.
Mm,
But she would would tie you with the one that was not. Well, then you feel like you're on the same level as that
sure.
person. Too. That was a bit tricky. But yes, having to go through and making sure that they felt good afterwards was sometimes difficult. Now, for the kids that won, they didn't care what it said on the page.
That was my next question for you because
Mhm.
sometimes, uh, I would, like you, I would always invite parents into the studio to talk about the results, and parents, "Oh, no, no, she got a great mark, we're happy," and it's like, "No, there's more information on here, and there's a lot of great comments and also some ideas, like, we need to talk about it." And yeah, they're not interested in that. It's like, "Yeah, I won. This good. I got the ribbon. It's fine." Which was, again, another learning opportunity, but a challenging learning opportunity is to, like, this isn't the be all and end all result. This is a wonderful marker to celebrate, but there's always opportunities. So how do you deal with your students that are like, yeah, yeah, whatevs?
Well, that is a difficult. There are some. You mean the students that win all the time and they almost expect it, that
Yes.
kind of thing. Yes, that was. I did discover though that in many cases it's the parents. When we started the non-competitive festival, I noticed that some of the parents would say, "But where did she place?"
Mm. Mhm.
I said, "Well, she got a gold standard, but where did she place?" And I would say, "Well, you know, out of all those 5 kids that performed today, 3 of them were all worth over 85 or whatever, let's say. I don't wanna say worth, um, but where did she place out of those 3? Well, does that matter? The fact that she no, that was the most difficult thing. I Sometimes dealing with parents can be really difficult. I mean, even with exam situations, I've had to deal with parents, who don't or parents who talk badly to their children in front of you, and you know that they're um, put them down, putting them down. That I find that very, very difficult.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that being a sports mom, I think that bleeds over sometimes when you're in sports, right? Because I mean, it's a win-lose situation, right? And as a parent, I try my hardest to always be like, what did you learn this game? Where are your opportunities and stuff? And then, but even now, as you get higher in the ages and it's more competitive, then it turns into stats, right? Then it turns into like, you know did what's your batting average, what's your pitching count, and all that stuff, and it can be really challenging. And I have to say, good coaches who communicate well with parents do a great job of kind of putting them in line or letting them know that, hey, this isn't okay. We don't talk to our players like that. And I think it's the same for teachers. I think we have to communicate with families where our focus is, you know, what what is the purpose of doing this? And I would always try, because a lot of families don't have experience in the arts. They might, and especially if, and this is just personal, but especially if it was a sports family, I would bring them in and go, "This is different, and this is our
yes.
goals, and this is what we're looking for." But it is challenging when you're having that conversation or trying to balance that out.
No, it is, and I think there were so many things that started to happen, especially with this one particular festival. That is why we started. to
Hmm.
have this non-competitive
What
festival.
was what was the moment that you were like, "I'm gonna start a non-competitive festival"? What were you doing? When did you have the aha moment? And
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, so um, I was on a committee of a festival in the town next to ours, and which was, I mean, things were going well. I had put in classes for voice where they had some non-competitive classes, but some classes, for instance, unchanged voices, classes for boys to be able to participate with other boys that are going through the same thing.
Right.
And anyway, things like that. And so then when I was away, I was away for a week in Mexico. We come back, and the rest of them, most of the rest of them were piano teachers. There's a couple of voice teachers on it, and they decided to totally change everything.
Oh.
They took out all the took out the classes for unchanged voices. They said there's no reason for them to have a particular class. Let them sing with the girls. We want it to be more competitive. And they kept on saying, we want it to be more competitive.
Mm.
And letting these boys sing together in a class is not teaching them anything about competition. We want it to be more competitive. And they kept on going through more competitive. We want this. And then concert, their final concert became a competition. So in their final concert, those that were chosen to perform were also competing against each other again. So it would bring in two adjudicators, and then so instead of a fun concert where you could have, this is a really cute duet, let's put that one in. I loved it when these two brothers played the piano, let's put them in, things like that. Things that would audience appeal, they didn't do that. They put in people that could win again, and it was all about the competition. And then they told me that, well, this one teacher told me if when a boy's losing his voice, it's no different than a pianist when he breaks his little finger and tries the piano. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? When he breaks his little finger, he can still play. I know because I've done that. And he says, uh, and they're going on about this and has to be more competitive and blah blah blah. And anyway, a lot of teachers, the other vocal teachers around, and you know them all because they were all from the Hamilton Oakville area, all wrote letters saying how wrong this was and this is not good. And anyways, so we decided, then they tried, when we wrote all these letters and they realized that some of the voice teachers were stopping, they weren't sending their kids anymore, they decided to try and put all these classes in on their own. So then they started putting classes like an ARCT class for unchanged voices.
What?
Like classes that didn't make any sense.
Oh
They
dear.
started putting those in. And anyway, and at that point, oh, and the one teacher, but this was you were asking, I know what you asked me. But the one teacher, Natalie, who started the Oakville Vocal Arts Festival with me, Natalie mentioned to me, she said, I put in so many students in the festival, and probably about a third of them were her students. She says, not once have any of my students been invited to sing at the final concert.
Mm.
Not once. And she has some really lovely
She
students.
does. Yeah. No, Natalie's students go on and do incredible things. A lot of
They
them are
they
singing
do,
in the
they're beautiful,
musicals in Toronto. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so at that point we got together that summer with
Mhm.
Marnie Kirsten,
Mhm.
and three of us, we talked about it, and we just said, we're going to start one where we don't have to go through any of this BS anymore.
Nice.
Right. And
Nice.
just right, just where the kids could just sing for each other for the sake of singing for each other. And we started to figure out, well, how are we going to do this and how are we going to put it together? And we were just went by the skin of our teeth trying to figure out what to do. But we knew what we wanted for our students. So we would want. So we kept it closed for the first year. Not closed, but just closed to our area, like the Halton area. So Halton Hamilton, I guess. We kept it to that area just because we weren't sure, and gladly we did, because we had 2 full weeks of singers. Which was a lot, right? So, but we started with, for instance, if they had a graded class, if they did a concert class, they would get a workshop afterwards.
Oh,
So we
brilliant.
incorporated a workshop into it.
And would the adjudicator do the workshop?
Yeah, so the
Oh,
adjudicator would, so let's say that they all sang their songs, and then they would each get worked on, perhaps 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. Each kid would, one, we're working on posture with this one, and we're working on the first breath with this one, and um diction with this one. Anyways, it all worked, and then they all learned from each other, right? And you see, and they're there taking little notes. Oh, wow. I think she's talking. I do that too, and she's, the kids are thinking like that. And it's and that seemed to work out really well. So we sort of went by ideas that we thought might work. And at the same time, we didn't want to give up the opportunity for the children to go to provincials if they wanted to, right? So the adjudicator was keeping marks on her own, that nobody else saw, and it wasn't shared with the teachers either. And so then the teachers didn't know either. And then they would just choose who they thought should go, and and interesting enough, not all children want to go to provincials.
I want to circle back. When you were doing the workshops with the adjudicators, I love this idea because a lot of times festivals would offer a workshop, but it wasn't part of the class, and it would be hit and miss if people would actually participate because it wasn't part of the experience. It was basically, "Oh, and you can participate in this thing." But
Mhm.
having it after the class, and I think that also helps the adjudicator to, provide that constructive feedback in a way that they'll actually use it, because then they're
Right.
getting to hear it and see the other kids going through it. I mean, that's probably far more effective than just a handwritten comments, right?
Oh, yeah, I think it is, and putting the focus on, instead of putting the focus on winner, and there has to be a winner, the focus is on everybody is learning, and the focus is about learning,
Mhm.
and growth, and it's interesting because the very first time, one of my older students, who was now about 20, she was in a festival, and she came back and she said, that was the first time that I actually listened to everything the adjudicator had to say.
Wow.
And I said, really? And she said, because in the past, I would always listen to what she said to that person. I said, oh, that person's won. And then she's going through my mind, oh, I wonder if that person won. Oh, I wonder if that person won. Oh, she didn't like me about that one. She just said that. Oh, maybe I didn't win. They would go through her head like that. And then I realized a lot of kids were processing things like that. That's all they
You know
worried
what?
about.
As a teacher that put kids into a festival, that's what I was thinking as well. And as the
Yeah.
teacher, I'm like, I'm going to listen to that adjudicator's comments so that I can go tell all my students this is what she's listening for, before their next class, kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, when you were starting to put together your first, seasons of the Vocal Arts Festival, did you run up against resistance from, like, say, adjudicators or, other festivals? Like, did you get a lot of question or parents? Like, did people, like, question your
Um, so the first of all, from adjudicators, no. The adjudicators
interesting.
loved it.
Oh, well, you know
Did
what?
not.
What's interesting, I went to the website. You've got testimonials on your website, the festival's website, from adjudicators, like,
Yes.
talking about how much they enjoyed it. That says a lot.
Yes. They enjoyed it, and I've had, I've met adjudicators and other things, and they'll say, "Oh, that's our favorite festival. It's our
Hmm.
favorite festival because we focus just on teaching the kids. We don't have to focus on who's gonna be my first place, who's gonna be my second place. Ooh, how am I gonna decide who's third?" Um, so they've enjoyed it in that regard. And it's interesting because there's one testimonial. This little girl on our first festival, she said, I got to sing with joy from my heart instead of
Oh.
worrying about whether I would win or not. It was a lot less stressful,
Oh, so true. Yeah, that's awesome.
right? I mean, of
Yeah,
course, we joy written on the joy of singing or something written on our banners, but there was another one from a little child. Oh, a 10-year-old, yes, but it wasn't about first, second, or third. The comments were more important. And adjudicators talking about, festivals an absolute delight, because it was a positive, educational, and inspiring. These
yeah,
are just comments that we got from adjudicators, um, and so I think, and we decided to make it about education. That's why we call it education and inspire, and educate, inspire, and encourage. And so encouragement was a big thing. So we decided that to have categories that were a little bit different as well. And we had a singer songwriter category because a lot of children love to write their
they
own songs,
do. Mhm.
right? And it doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Now, when you enter a composition class in a festival, well, the festivals that have piano, etc., you're also entering your little song with, other people with big piano, lots of piano skills and whatever. So we would have adjudicators in that are in the business that are singing and or composing on themselves. And some of them were even Juno Award winners and things. Were able to get great, yeah, adjudicators in, and because they like what we're doing. And so they would come in and they would actually work with them, listen to their song, maybe work with them. Have you tried? Oh, do you think that maybe that bridge should be this? Do you think that maybe your verse is actually your chorus? These are just some of the comments I'm remembering from, if you tried this chord there leading into that, that might work. What do you think about that? Let's try that. And they would have them, the adjudicator would child come sit at the piano with them. Let's try this. Let's see if this works. Um, and we found that to be really rewarding because there were little kids even weren't afraid. I mean, a 10-year-old got up and wrote a song about her grandmother.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And it was sweet, but the thing is they're being allowed to go into these kind of things at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
And
they're they're being allowed to express their musical ideas, which is so
exactly.
important.
At a young age, and I had a little girl, Lila. She didn't care that the kids. She was 8 years old. She didn't care that everybody else was older than her in the category. She was gonna go and sing her song about the white rabbit. It
I
was
love
just,
that.
yeah. It's very interesting. And then that same student went on to every time she'd come to her lesson. I got another idea. I got another idea. Help me write it down.
Hey there, friend and colleague. Continuing your professional development is key to staying inspired, improving your teaching skills, and staying connected to the ever evolving field of voice education. At Full Voice Music, we've made professional development fun, affordable, and convenient with our online courses. For teachers who are getting started with young singers, please check out our play-based learning, engagement, and lesson pacing course. This is an intensive 45-minute course with strategies and best practices for engaging educational singing lessons. Now, for teachers needing a deeper dive into changing voices, our 90-minute presentation, Voice Growth and Change in Kids and Teens with Dr. Ginevra Williams, will help you support your adolescent singers with empathy and understanding. Both of these courses include an optional teacher quiz and certificate of completion. As a podcast listener, you can save 20% off each of these courses when you use the code PODCAST. Learn at your own pace and in the comfort of your home and gain practical, actionable knowledge that you can use right away. Full Voice Music is excited to support your journey as a voice educator. Visit fullvoicemusic.com to explore our courses and get started today.
I got another idea. I got another idea. Help me write it down.
That's
And
so good. It's
right? So
so
she could
good.
write it. Yeah, for
Yeah.
the next. So
And talk about how motivating that's going to be for your students moving forward, right? Giving them that platform where they get to celebrate, they get to sing. They're not comparing. That whole compare and despair is not there. And then they can come back to our studios and then, oh, I really like this song, or I think I could do the songwriting class next year, or
mhm.
how empowered they are,
No,
right?
exactly. I have a 10-year-old who didn't even she just started this year, didn't even realize there was that category. And
Oh.
right away when the festival was over, she said, "I'm writing a song for next year's. I've already started. Here's my notebook." She brings me her little journal. The journal is full of little lyric ideas that she's been writing.
If there's one thing I can look back on my teaching career is how many of my students at very young ages were so interested in songwriting. And that's something that Donna Rodenizer is a huge advocate for is being comfortable to manipulate music and phrases and lyrics and all sorts of things to create your own music. And it's so, I mean, we all know how vulnerable people feel just singing, but then singing and expressing your lyric, your idea is just, for some people, it's a huge hill they have to get over of confidence. They have to gather that confidence to get there. And I mean, this opportunity would just open that up for so many people.
Well, and I because before that, I used to open that opportunity up at my recitals. So the Christmas recital, the year-end recital, they could, kids that wrote their own things could get up and do that. One of my girls, who I had a few years ago, Katarina used to write little songs, and they were very good. And she would write, "Oh, we're having a Christmas recital. I'm going to write this great song about such and such," and she would write it, right? And she'd sit there on the piano, she'd play it, and she'd sing it. And then as it went on, she kept doing it. Then she started entering the ORMTA songwriting uh, competitions that they had. And anyway, long story short, when she went to university as a voice major, but by second year decided what she really wanted to be was a composer. And now she's a choral composer and one of the top choral composers in Canada, and her music is performed all over the world.
Amazing.
But I remember at one of the Ormpta recitals, she wrote a piece of music that had about 6 or 7 parts,
Right.
and she got a bunch of my students to all learn their own part, and the harmony, they all blended together. I was quite amazed at how wonderful this was, and we all sang it. It was called Boundless, I remember that. We sang it at the Ormpta recital, and people were so shocked that this teenage girl had written it.
Sometimes we don't, as music educators, we don't acknowledge that our students have more ability than we give them credit for. Like if we give them the opportunity, you know, sometimes
Right.
we right, if we open some doors, and sometimes we just have to stand back and encourage them, right?
Mhm.
No intervention, no nothing. They just need to know that they're on the right track, and that's all of a sudden they're confident. It's just about building their confidence, and then it's just incredible because honestly, it could only be one negative comment or less than supportive comment that shuts it all down, right?
Oh,
So
no, exactly, and how many there have been children who have stopped taking lessons because of something that happened during a music festival or some comment,
I've had that experience firsthand.
right?
And
I mean,
yeah,
that has happened,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's
and
definitely happened, and you have to think, "Okay, so what are we doing? Are we just, teaching them how to be a winner?" I mean, yeah, life is competitive, and that was the first comment I got from the higher up of the festival association that, "What are you doing, Linda? Don't you realize that all life is competitive? Life is competitive." I said,
well,
and my response was, "So does all music have to be competitive too? Why
mm.
does music have to be competitive? Why can't they choose if they want it to be competitive or not?" Um, but her comment, it'll never work. That's not really a music festival. That's not really a music festival. That's not really a music festival if there's no competition.
Is that what people told you? They said
Yeah.
this is something else.
Yeah, this
Wow.
is not a and life is competitive, and everything is competitive. They have to learn to compete. Well, no, they don't. I don't believe that. If the child spends all their time at their lesson just preparing for their competition pieces, are they learning anything else? Are they actually having any time to work on their theory or working on some piece just for fun?
You know, that was one of the challenges I had in my studio, with examinations, because examinations took up so much time. Um, and but my kids wanted to do, like, learn some jazz or do some harmony singing or songwriting, right? So for some of my students, the parents were really interested in the exams, but what I was like, then I was like trying to negotiate. I'm like, well, what if we did an exam every other year so they could at least do all this other stuff and get those experiences as well, because it's and how many people like this. I remember getting your grade 8 piano, right? You had to get your grade 8 piano and then you could quit. And
Yes,
how
yes,
many people on the planet have their grade 8 piano but couldn't play a note to save their lives because it was
that's true.
literally just to get to the end, right?
Yeah.
So, it's the same in other industries. I remember when Sean and I were doing karate, and we were good friends with our sensei, and he used to say, "Yeah, people would work for years to get their black belts, and then they would quit like they had finished the task." So people put this goal in their minds that I'm going to do karate until I get my black belt and then I can quit. And his thing was always, once you get a black belt, then you really get to learn the cool stuff and you can do cool
Mhm.
things. And it was always frustrating for him to see so many of his hardworking students just leave after their black belt grading, which is like intense. But
That
yeah.
is it. That's what's funny. I use that for sight reading. I tell the students, you learn to sight read, then everything becomes easier for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and for the piano student, I don't teach piano anymore. I haven't taught piano for years. Um, the but the students, once they get their sight reading skills, then I would say, well, it's just like you go to the store to pick up a new book you want to read. Well, if you have a really good sight reading skills, you can just go to the music store, pick up songs you want to play, just bring them home and play them, just like you're reading a book. And but these are all skills that have to be worked on. And we have to make sure that they have the time to work on those skills, and that we're not just spending time prepping them for a competition.
Mm. When you were first starting the festival, what were some of the big obstacles getting started? Like, how did you communicate to families that we're doing this different? Hold your horses. We're doing this different. Like, did you run into, or did you or Natalie or Marnie run into any of these issues when you were getting
Um,
started?
I don't think so. There would have been some questions, but I think we were able to answer them about, that we're trying this uh, in a non-competitive way, so that they still have the opportunity to share and everything, and getting other teachers on board to come. We had, a few teachers that, yes, they came, and the teachers might question it too, like, are they going to go on? Is there, but we should just explain to the teachers, this is what we're trying out, and to see how this is going to work. And we would get the teachers involved. So when we first started, every teacher that entered their students would help us in some way.
Sure.
So they would also be involved. They'd come and work as the secretary.
Oh, nice,
They'd
nice.
work outside. So the adjudicator secretary, they'd work outside, welcoming people in, and things like that. Um, they may help in other ways. We used to have a choir.
Right.
Um, so we stopped that during COVID. I'm hoping it'll come back. Um, when I got back to Natalie's comment about her students were never chosen to sing
Hmm.
at that competitive festival finale, so we decided to have one where all children got to sing.
Oh, lovely.
All children got to say, I'm part of the final concert at the festival.
Hmm.
Because let's face it, in most festivals, it's only a handful of kids that ever get
Yeah.
asked, and it is the same ones over and over again. So we decided we would have, number one, we would have it so that every teacher was represented at the festival.
Mhm.
So the teachers, obviously, that had many, many, many students might have 2 or 3 of them in the final concert. But those that only entered 1 or 2 would have one of their kids would be in, so that
Nice.
every teacher had one of their students in the concert. And then we opened up to this. We decided we would have a choir and have this students learn some pieces. I think
Mhm.
we started with My Old Irish Blessing because half of them already
Oh,
knew it.
that's a lovely
But we
song.
did it in SATB, which was great because at that time I had a lot of male students that were could cover those parts. And then
Mhm.
we had I Sing Because I'm Happy. And there was all kinds of great songs that we did. Oye, I'm trying to think of all the different. But what would happen is the kids would learn these songs at home
Mm.
or with their teacher. We would
Mhm.
send backing tracks so that they could learn them all. Backing tracks and music, and we would put in a big order at Leslie Music Supply here in Oakville so that they all had their own personal copy of the
That's
music,
beautiful. Yes.
right? And which we paid for.
Mhm.
And then they would get together about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd have a rehearsal, and we would rehearse all these songs together as a group.
Mm. Mhm.
And then we had pizza and
Nice. I'm in.
pizza and
You
cookies,
had me at pizza.
pizza and cookies, and then the
Nice.
parents arrived. So a
Wow.
lot of teacher volunteers would were the ones that would help us out with the pizza and organizing the children and things like that. But the very first festival, we had about 132 kids enter.
Wow.
I know. And the interesting thing is, when we put this idea out about who would like to sing in a massed choir, it was about 122 of them.
That's
We were
amazing.
we
That's
were shocked.
fabulous.
And one of my favorite photos is one of my students, Jack, who was probably 6'3" at least, and he's standing in the back row with one, but he's holding hands with one of the little 10-year-olds from somebody else's
Oh.
studio, right? And while they're singing this song, and they're all swaying back and forth while they were singing. That was another thing. One of the things that we encourage is duets between studios.
Oh, wow.
So that
Amazing.
the studios themselves aren't
I
competing,
love
they're all
that.
taking part. So this fellow's gonna take, do a duet with a girl from this studio, or so we encourage that. Um, so the collaboration, but even having that singing all together was, getting them all together. Um, what was the other thing I was gonna say? We have a family category
Oh.
where the whole family can get up and sing
Oh my goodness. That's
together.
incredible.
So we had when I adjudicated a couple of times in Newfoundland, and actually I brought that idea back from there. It
Oh, yes.
wasn't an original idea, because they had family music, and
Oh, it's huge in the East Coast. Families
yeah,
play. Yes.
love it.
Yeah. Sean
So we had
Sean was at a one of the jams, the sessions. They call them sessions, and they're basically it's usually at a restaurant or a cafe, and all the musicians come and they play like the traditional music all together, and you might have 5 violin players and 3 guitar players, whatever. It's just a blast. But you see a lot of children coming who are also learning this repertoire, and they come to the jams, but there's less and less places for them to perform and to play together. So that is so wonderful that like families can do that at the festival.
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember there was one father, well, actually Natalie's students. She had these 3 sisters that she taught, and she taught them all. And then the father would stand there playing the guitar, and the sisters would and they'd all sing together, which was great,
Mhm.
and it's not a competitive, it's non-competitive. So it's not saying, well, your family is better than your family kind of thing. It was just more entertainment.
Well, this family is the best family, but that family over there is not. Yeah, that
No, it
wow.
was interesting. I mean, yeah, there is a place for competition, I realize. in life, there is a place
Sure.
for competition. And we compete for everything. We compete for jobs, we compete for um a place in a university to get into university.
Yeah.
There's so much, but does the music have to be competitive?
It doesn't.
Or
No.
can the
Not all
child
the
choose?
time.
Not all the time. And the child can choose.
Hmm.
Hey,
Absolutely.
I'd like to share my music with other people. I'd like to hear other children sing. And I'd
Yeah.
like to hear people think about my music and get some ideas. But maybe I just don't want to be put on the spot there. I mean, I did have one parent who told me, I don't want my child doing any festivals. She is so anxious all the time. She's under so much stress from everything else in her life. She does not need music to be a stressor.
Nice.
And that
I like
is
that.
so true. That is so true. And some kids maybe thrive on it. Some kids probably grow on competition. They thrive on it. But for a lot of them, they do not. And the feeling, the anxious, depression. I mean, all the things that make them feel good about music can suddenly be squashed
Yeah.
at one point.
Yep.
Um, I mean, if you do go into all the health, another podcast for you one time would be all the health benefits
Ha!
of
Yes.
singing, right?
Yes.
I mean, just think of all the feel good chemicals that happen when you're singing. The reasons, I mean, we sing because it puts us in a calmer mood. It takes away depression. I mean, even your oxygen levels are higher. I mean, there's so much that happen. I've got some great books on it, music as medicine and things like that. And some
Those are yes, those are
they're great.
incredible.
They're great books to use with the kids.
Hi, friend and colleague. Are you new to teaching young singers? Full Voice Music is here to support you with an incredible free resource. It's Raining Cats and Dogs by Donna Rodenizer is the perfect first song for singers ages 8 and under. This free song download includes sheet music, the lyric sheets, backing tracks, and for those of you who are new to introducing a song to a child, complete lesson plans. Here's a little preview of the song.
It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. I'll go outside with a great big box and try to pick up lots and lots. I hope that I can keep them all. Those rainy cats and dogs that fall.
This song download package is ready to use and share with your students. No need to bother parents to buy another songbook. Full Voice Music supports teachers with practical resources that make lessons fun and engaging. Visit our website, fullvoicemusic.com, to grab this free download today.
Those rainy cats and dogs that fall.
Those are, yes, those are
They're great.
incredible.
They're great books to use with the kids.
And I think if you are a result driven studio, sometimes it's those reasons often are quickly overshadowed, right? Because it's all
Yes.
about progress. It's or if it's all about grades or it's all about marks or it's all about auditions, and it's so it's so easy to get caught up in that. I know I certainly did in my early years of teaching. I know the festival was something that I was really excited about, the competitive ones, and something I was really excited about because yes, I did have students that understood the assignment and did really well and had the support, and then I had students that it was an okay experience, and then I did have the students and parents that just weren't ready or weren't able to understand what the benefits were, or weren't able to recognize that this is an opportunity, and it just wasn't a good fit, and then you again, I called it damage control afterwards, and it was just
No.
so much. And as I started working with younger and younger students and more beginners, like just there those weren't options for them because they weren't welcoming places, but you have created this festival that really changes that. What's the youngest age you would take for the festival?
I think 6.
Wow.
The youngest, a little 6-year-old boy this time. I think he sang,
Oh,
something about being in the woods. Um,
aw.
it was really cute. My granddaughters both sang it. They were, 7. They both sang in different categories. And, my 9-year-old grandson, he just he says to my daughter, "Wow, the girls are singing in the music festival?" He plays piano and cello. He's really good on he does piano and cello. Hasn't been singing. "Well, I can sing too, you know." So
That's
so my
awesome.
daughter says, "Sure. Do you wanna sing?" He says, "Yeah, I do." So she opens up her little kids Broadway book, and the first one she played was "Who Will Buy" from Oliver. And
Perfect.
he says, "That'll do. I'll do that one." That's what he's very matter of fact. "Yep, sure, I'll do that." He got up, he learned the song, got up there, sang it, did far too many actions, but whatever. It was the fact that he got up and did it, and he was so proud of himself. He was so
Oh,
proud of himself that he had done that, you know?
yeah.
It's interesting, and I think if you keep it light, um, I'll have to tell you, this just came into my mind. One of my little students this fall, she said to me, "When I grow up, I'm gonna be a singing teacher."
Oh.
And I said, "Oh, that's really nice. Why would you like to be a singing teacher?" Because being a singing teacher means you don't have to grow up.
Ah! There is some truth in that, I
Isn't
think.
that
Yeah, I
funny?
think I think that's awesome.
And I thought, wow, well, I mean, maybe, and think about all when we get to sing itty bitty kitty unicorn with the kids and all those little, wish I used that with my youth choir too. They love it. It's a good warm up. Um, you do get to maybe you're not let's say we don't have to be as serious as you would be in other jobs when you're teaching children, so you have the permission to get down there and be silly, and kids see that. And I just thought that was really interesting on her part about how that's how she saw my
Your
job.
job, just to not have her having to grow up. I know that, like, teachers listening, my hope is that more teachers will maybe take up the charge and start their own music festival, whether it's a small one within their studio or in their community. If there are teachers listening who are like, yeah, this is something that would really benefit my students, my community, um, what are some of the top tips you would give them, or strategies, or anything that you did that you would mistakes you made that maybe you don't would tell them not to make in the beginning when they were getting their non-competitive opportunities available?
Um, I think one thing you have to watch out for that maybe we struggled with a bit was communicating to the other teachers about what you were
Mm.
doing and getting other teachers involved and not keeping it as a closed festival.
Mm,
Um, I mean, we closed it to our own little area, but that was just for our own safety because we had no idea what
sure,
might happen,
sure. And now
right?
the festival's open to anyone who wants
It
to.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's open to anybody who wants to come, and I mean, I think there were people from maybe Aurelia
Wow.
and Toronto, and Will Hamilton, Stony Creek, Waterdown. I mean, there's all the different areas that they're coming. But the thing is, they must really want to come and sing. They're coming to a festival
Hmm.
that's
Sure.
non-competitive,
Yeah.
so they're not coming for all the prize money,
Right.
right? Because I know
Right.
there are that go around from festival to festival all over with one piece, trying to win money from wherever they can.
Sure.
We actually choose to use the money we have. We have the Oakville Arts Council. They really firmly believed in what we were doing and gave us a grant
Nice.
to start. And we have a couple of other teachers that are helping with donation, just to I guess a bursary. We've got Dr. Joan Heels, and we've got something from the Oakville Community Foundation. So, um, but we're using that, for instance, we'll hold workshops during the year So now that we have pop classes, we want to have a workshop sometime, I don't know, maybe around in April, March or April, on mic technique
Oh,
for kids,
perfect.
because a lot of students don't have a clue, and the
No.
teachers don't either. And so with the mic technique, we would just bring in the adjudicator that we just had, Amanda, because she was fabulous. With that, she'll come in and she'll help the kids with that. Or we had a workshop one time with another adjudicator, which is a music theater workshop, and she just had them learning to be comfortable with themselves, being comfortable with their body, and getting up there to sing and everything. So we try and make it so that there is some involvement throughout the year. And so instead of the money going for like scholarships, the money is going to basically help all the kids that enter the festival.
I
If that
remember I remember when I was in the Registered Music Teachers Association, and we would do like, the awards and the scholarships, and we would send out all the checks for all the prize winners, and how
Mhm.
many people just didn't cash those checks,
Oh, for sure.
right? Like
That's
it was like,
that still happens.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I love the idea of reinvesting into the students and giving them even more opportunities to learn. I love that. Love
No,
that.
that's true. I mean, my two of my granddaughters were chosen to go to provincials, and but my daughter and daughter-in-law said no.
Yeah.
Decided no. We could send in a video and you receive a piece of paper with a written adjudication on it. The money that it costs to enter, you can take them to see some great musical or something, right?
Right. Sure.
In fact, yeah, I mean, they're already going to go see Matilda,
Nice.
and went
Awesome.
to some pantomime, right?
Oh,
With the same
beautiful.
benefit that it would have cost to do that. They're able to go to a couple of shows instead.
Mhm.
Um, so the what was your question was about other teachers getting
Yeah, if they were
involved?
thinking of starting something like this.
Yeah, starting something, and I think you'd have to go through and maybe speak with other teachers in your area,
Hmm.
and get some of their ideas and get involvement and get help, because it's
Mm,
a lot of work. It's
sure.
so much work for just a handful of people. And we
Hmm.
now have Yvonne Chang on the on our committee, and Yvonne does a lot of the work. And then we have my daughter Jennifer Bristow is also on the committee, and she's helping with a lot of the oh, well, she was doing the program before, but she's doing a lot of the reaching out, anything that's technical or business oriented, because she's really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that keeps the rest of us organized is what
Yeah,
my daughter.
you need one of those super organized people to be on
Yes,
your committee. I love
yes.
that. Yeah.
She volunteered to come on and help her mother, so that was
Aw, that's so
so
lovely.
that was good.
When was the what was the numbers for the first year, and where are you at now with numbers participants?
Oh, I don't know. That's something I guess I could have looked up for you, but I did not.
That's okay.
Um,
But if
I
you
think it's
see it's
spread.
growing every year.
Yes, yes, it's growing, and we now, especially now that we have pop categories as well,
Sure.
and we have this. Well, the singer-songwriter category we had all along,
Mm,
and
mhm.
but we also have in the pop categories we have your own composition as well in those. So I yes, it is growing. So it's about 2 full weeks, which I think we don't have as many workshops after the classes as we did before.
Mhm.
We used to have a lot of them, so they took up a lot of the time,
Mhm.
and now we just don't have the time to do all that because the number. And we were afraid of having to grow to 3 weeks,
Mm.
because for all those of us that are running it, that would take 3 weeks out of your teaching schedule,
Right, because you're at the festival for those. Yes, for
right?
sure.
But what's interesting is when some of the kids with festivals, the older students, I mean, I've talked to lots of them who are now in their 20s and 30s, and they're thinking about, they still remember specific songs that they
Sure.
learned.
Yeah.
And so in one way, they don't tell me whether they won or didn't win. They just remember that, boy, did I ever love this song.
Right.
I mean, one
Sure.
of my students is doing all this Broadway stuff, whatever, right now. And he said to me, my favorite song was My Dog Spot.
I remember that song.
They start singing it for me, and I think, I can't remember. You've got all that music in your head, and you still remember My Dog Spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
It's so
there's key memories of songs that I sang through the years that just, pop into your head, and you'll be driving and all of a sudden you're singing a song you sang when you were 12, and or
I know.
a round that you sang when you were in Girl Guides, or the first vocalese you had to learn, right? Like,
Oh, no, exactly. And it's interesting what I at that point I remember talking to him about the fact that a lot of students learned that same song. And if you take a look at the songs that students learned, there were some there were some that were more popular than others, obviously.
mhm,
But although the kids all started off the same way, and they're doing their examinations, maybe they did a couple of festivals along the way,
mhm,
they all went into different areas of life. So many of them went into music.
mhm, mhm,
You know,
mhm,
one of them are, as the choral composer, the pop singers. Some of them are pop singers. Some of them are doing music theater. Some
mhm.
of them are performing currently on music theater with Mervish and different companies.
Yeah.
And one even went on to do American Idol.
Right.
And but that that night of American Idol is when we were talking about that. The fact that all you kids they all did something different. And
Mhm.
he said, yeah, we all learned those same songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all learned the same songs, but they took us all in different directions.
I love that. I want to thank you for everything you do, Linda. You wear so many hats, but especially, I really want to thank you about sharing your experiences with a non-competitive festival. I love the way that you are celebrating our singers, and my hope for people is the takeaway is that maybe within our studios, whether it's partnering with other studios. I love the idea of doing a partnering with other studios. I mean, singing and music is just meant to be collaborative and shared with everyone. And you're doing that with the Oakville Vocal Arts Festival. I want to congratulate you and Natalie and Marnie and Yvonne and everybody that worked so hard behind the scenes on such a great opportunity, and for lifting up, what do they say? A rising tide raises all ships. I love what you're doing and the
Right? Or
energy.
it takes a village to raise
It
a child.
takes a village to raise a child, and what amazing opportunities you're giving young singers or singers of all ages, really, to just get out there and sing and do what they love. Like, it's so important. I am going to put on the show notes a link to the Oakville Vocal Arts website so people can check it out. I'm sure some of my teachers might ask, or my listeners might ask, but is there a online aspect to it? You did that through COVID, but you're now back in person right
Yes.
now.
No, we did that through COVID.
Hmm.
That is not, I never even actually considered that. I suppose that would just be another uh another something else to stress us out.
Down the
but
road, down the
but
road.
that is very interesting. During COVID, it worked out really well because we didn't have the kids just send videos. They had a video. The adjudicator would watch the videos ahead of time,
Hmm.
and then and we had lovely Tracy Ford. We were able to have people like Tracy adjudicate because it was on Zoom, and Tracy would be in the middle, and the students, say there was 5 in the category, would all be on the screen with Tracy, and we would all watch the kids' video. We would all watch, and then Tracy would communicate with each child, and
Wow.
it worked really well on Zoom that way. I was really pleasantly surprised, because they were still able to hear each other and communicate with each other, and the students were helping each other when they were on Zoom.
Yeah.
It was so interesting, uh, and chatting to each other. They would put in the chat, "Wow, you were awesome,"
Oh, those
and they didn't even
comments are
know it.
so important. Yes, yes, for sure.
would be something to think about, I suppose.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
just putting that message out. So I'll put there's an idea for you. Take it or leave it.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate you on this wonderful opportunity and just all the work that everybody's done behind the scenes. It's such an amazing opportunity. And if anybody wants to check it out, I'm going to put links to your website in the show notes. It's Oakville Vocal Arts
Festival.
Festival.
Yeah,
.ca.
Oakville Vocal Arts Festival.ca. Mhm.
Nice. So I'm going to put that in the show notes. We'll have you back. If anybody, one of our top listened to podcast was your podcast about accompanying young singers. So I'm also going to put a link to that in the show notes as well, because there's golden strategies and things in that one as well. But thank you, Linda. Thank you for joining us again, and best wishes to this year's 2025's festival. I hope it goes well.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, Nikki. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you talking about our music festival, and it's our little baby.
A very special thank you to Linda Fletcher for joining me on the Full Voice podcast, my friend. I am wishing you inspired teaching and happy singing. And before I let you go, I need you to know that Dr. Ginevra Williams' book, Teaching Singing to Children and Young Adults, is now available on our website. Please check that out. It is 228 pages of research, pedagogy, inspiration, singing activities, singing warm-ups, and best practices for teaching young singers. FullVoiceMusic.com. I'm wishing you a fabulous day.